evening, everybody. We'll get it to work. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Christy Seaford. I'm the proud principal of Virginia Lake School in Palatine. If you haven't visited us, we're located right next to Palatine High School. I'm here tonight with my amazing music teacher, Mrs. Beth Berger, and 20 of our chorus members. Our chorus is about 30 strong this year, which we're very proud of. And 20 were able to make it out on this dreary night to join us not only in the Pledge of Allegiance, but in our first performance of our new Virginia Lake fight song. So I'd like our students to enter in at this time and help us in leading the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So about a year ago, we started out on this mission to really work on developing a greater sense of school spirit at Virginia Lake. We began with our PTA, and they so graciously offered to help us purchase t-shirts for every student in our school, so that every Monday we could come in showing our proud colors of Virginia Lake. But it didn't stop there. Moving on from that point, we decided we needed a school song. With that in mind, our PBIS Green Team worked together with Mrs. Berger in composing our own school song. I would be lying not to say we stole a little bit from our neighbors at Palatine, who stole a little bit from the University of Illinois. So, our thought is, once a dolphin headed off to Palatine, headed off to U of I, it would be much easier for students to remember the theme to their school fight song. So without further ado, our premiere for performance of the Virginia Lake fight song.
We're loyal to you, Virginia Lake. We're blue and white at the lake. We proudly will stand with the best in the land, and we'll give you a hand at the lake. Rah, rah, show respect for them all at the lake, and hold your head tall at the lake. Our team is all in together, Dolphins will be forever loyal to you, Virginia Lake. D-O-L-P-H-I-N-S. Dolphins, Dolphins, go Dolphins!
Thank you very much. So our job now is we're working to teach all 800 students at Virginia Lake the very same fight song, and we can't wait to perform it all as a whole group. So thank you for enjoying that with us tonight and for your boisterous applause. They've worked very hard. Thank you, Ms. Berger, and thank you
I was so impressed with that song, I forgot to give you my pen. Thank you for coming today. Great song, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
At this point in the agenda, unless the Board of Ed has any objection, I would like to move the public comments section to the top of the remaining agenda items. Okay? All right. That said, if anyone would like to address the board, you're welcome to grab one of these sheets. There, you should be at the back of the room, or we're on the table where you entered. We will open our meeting for public comment. Please remember that this is not a dialogue between you and the board. If you have a specific issue which requires a response, Superintendent Thompson will get back to you. Please state your name and identify any group that you represent. Please limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. If someone previously has articulated something with which you agree, please state that you agree rather than reiterating the entire comment. Finally, avoid comments specific to any person, student, or staff member, respecting the right to privacy. This is not the forum for comment on personnel issues. Thank you. I'd like to start the public comment period real quick by making a public comment myself. First of all, thank you all for coming. It really is great to see the show of support that the SPA has. We like to see it. I do myself appreciate a full boardroom. It doesn't happen very often, so to have it happen 2 times in a row is something rather impressive. So thanks for taking time away from your families to be here. I did want to give you all an update on where we are with the collective bargaining between the board and ESPA. We met last week as well as all day today. We made very good progress. We have 2 additional dates on the calendar at this time, the 18th and the 23rd of October. We continue to feel strongly that we will come to an agreement, and we're seeing forward progress. That's a very good sign that we are getting to where we'd like to be collectively on both sides of the table. Based on the good faith negotiating we've seen on both sides, the Board of Ed has every reason to believe there will not be a work stoppage on Monday, and I hope that that's what comes to fruition. We are working hard, we are working in good faith, and we appreciate your leadership working together with us so that we can take care of the children. That is our goal in serving as best as we are able. Thanks again for coming, and I'll call up the first person. Melissa Mariconda. Dr. Thompson says, stage the next guest. Julie Archos.
Good evening, Board of Education members. My name is Melissa Mariconda. This isn't my first time addressing the school board. I stood here last year to support the referendum to improve our schools. I was here to support the teachers in their newest contract. And many years ago, I stood before you as a student of District 15. Yes, my roots run deep within this district. I attended Marion Jordan and walked through these very same halls of sunlight. I moved back to Palatine because I wanted my daughter to attend what I believe are some of the best schools in Illinois. I am here to tell you tonight, I support the ESPA in receiving fair wages. As an elementary school teacher with a master's degree in special education, I know the world of education well. I know what all of these individuals do each day to keep our schools running. I am so disheartened to hear that you are willing to degrade and minimize the jobs of these individuals. No one enters the field of education for the money or glamorous lifestyle. We enter it because we want to impact the lives of children and make a difference somewhere, hopefully along the way. But this doesn't mean anyone shouldn't be compensated fairly and treated with respect. Program assistants are toileting children, feeding children, getting children on and off buses, helping special education students with everyday life skills. These individuals are the backbone of success for our special education students. What happens when you don't pay people fairly? The turnover rate increases. Consistency is key for many of our special education students. They thrive with consistent routines and structured environments. You want to eliminate that for what could possibly be the neediest population in a school. The unsung heroes of our school buildings are our school secretaries, the ones who are there to answer every parent phone call, greet our children and staff each morning, deal with lunch count and warning announcements, and are the first line of defense in keeping our schools safe. They are the dumping grounds for every question and miscellaneous task. They help every staff member and principal do their job better every day. But please, let's treat them unfairly by not giving them what they deserve. What I did leave out is that I've been down this road personally. Just 2 years ago, our teachers' union voted to strike. It wasn't something we wanted to do. We needed to fight for what we believed in and what we deserved. Those were some of the hardest days, being away from my classroom, unable to do what I do best. It takes a while to get over a strike, emotionally, mentally, and physically. I do not wish for the ESPA to strike, but if the time comes, I will stand by them as a district graduate, teacher, mother, and taxpayer. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julie Argos. I was the first one-on-one for an inclusion student 26 years ago. She could not talk, eat, or use the bathroom without assistance. But she was smart, and I was her voice. I was a one-on-one for 4 years. After that, I came to Sunley Junior High, where I became a special ed program assistant. I worked with students who had deficiencies in one subject or multiple subjects. I gave up my lunch to work with students until they can understand their subject to be able to do it at home for their homework. Now, I'm a building PA. I'm in a class with 34 students. Sometimes a student has to sit at a teacher's desk because there's not enough room for one more desk to be put in. I work with 504 students who need tests read to them, extended time explanation of questions, scribing, reteaching in small groups. These are just 3 jobs that some of the 438 employees do. The rest are ELL PAs who have to pass an ELL test to interview for an opening job position. Secretaries and clerical assistants who are the heart of the building. They know all and are the first person a parent, a student, or administrator see, and can help by diffusing a situation, welcoming a student. Without nurses, students with medical issues wouldn't get the help they require. Here are our jobs, why we are needed and important enough to be with every student. We work with special needs, large classroom sizes, one-on-one, caregivers, secretaries, clericals, and nurses. Without us, the school in this district will not meet the standard state requirements and the impact on the students that we are here to make world-class learners. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm short, I'm going to do that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your service to the district. My name is Miriam Brotein, and I am here this evening as a Palatine resident and as the parent of a kindergartner. I am asking you to make full-day kindergarten for all students in this district a priority and a reality in District 15. I note that one of the board's 2017-18 annual goals involves curricular and programmatic improvements, which includes investigating opportunities for needs-based full-day kindergarten. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by needs-based full-day kindergarten, but as the parent of a current kindergarten student, I can tell you that all District 15 students need the opportunity to attend full-day kindergarten. The need for full-day kindergarten is apparent at the state level as well. The new evidence-based funding model recognizes the significance of full-day kindergarten in determining a school district's adequacy target. In the calculation of the average student enrollment, every student in grades K through 12 is counted as 1.0. However, the statute specifically says that every half-day kindergarten student is counted as half. And that goes to determine what kind of resources are allocated to the board under the adequacy target and the base funding level. Unless this Board of Education gives the State Board of Ed notice by March 1st, 2018, that it intends to provide full-day kindergarten to all district students, district-wide, and does that by March 1st, then your adequacy target and your ASE will be determined based on each student having 0.5. So I noticed in today's board packet, for example, the current kindergarten enrollment is 1,100. That could potentially be calculated as 550 students. In addition, the State Board of Education has been discussing this issue at its August and September meetings. In August, there was discussion among board members regarding transition to full-day kindergarten statewide. Personally, I'd rather see that be a District 15 initiative than something that's forced upon it by the State Board of Ed. This discussion was continued at the ISB meeting and retreat in September, where it was reported that of the 764 school districts in this state that offer kindergarten, there are 3 districts that are not offering full day. We are one of 3. The same meeting noted its expectations have increased academically for kindergartners. I'm sure we're all aware of that. We've heard of that discussion. I did hand out copies of the Illinois State Learning Standards for kindergarten. Until I had a kindergartner this year, I didn't look at them. The packet, excluding the cover page, is 13 pages of single-spaced learning standards that all kindergartners are expected to meet. It's rigorous. They must learn English language arts, fine arts, mathematics, science, physical development, social emotional learning, and social science. As I'm sure many people in this room could tell you, it's difficult enough to cram that into 2.5 hours a day when you have fully mature students, let alone when you have 20 plus 5-year-olds. And it simply doesn't meet their social emotional needs. From what I can see, your teachers and staff are doing a phenomenal job with the limited time that they have. But no matter how much energy and effort and caring they put into it, that cannot make up for the lack of the full day. At your August 9th meeting, I noticed that a fellow parent, who is also a kindergarten teacher in a neighboring district, spoke about the need for full day kindergarten. She specifically addressed the social emotional learning needs. And I can tell you that ever since my son started kindergarten on August 17th, I have firsthand witnessed this. He is just one of many of his peers who is struggling. He has been a full-time daycare student since he was an infant. He's excited. He came in ready for kindergarten. I can tell you I used it as a motivational tool last year. Hey, can you please behave because you're gonna be a kindergartner. The first Sunday after school started, he said, Mommy, I'm not sad it's Sunday because tomorrow I get to go to kindergarten. And I was like, yes, awesome. And then that quickly disappeared. Now he doesn't look forward to kindergarten. He only looks forward to the one day a week that there's time for PE. There's no time for recess, there's no time for play. He fully enjoys his after-school play-based kindergarten enrichment program. He's excited, he wants to read. Just yesterday he wanted to build electronic circuits. And what I'm seeing though is that if we don't invest in these kids, and we don't do it now, we are going to take kids who are coming in and who are excited to learn, and we're going to turn them off of education. I believe that this is a responsibility we all have as a community and as a district, and it's a challenge I impart to you as a board. I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. I know that many community members are. But I ask that you do make full-day kindergarten a priority for all students in this district. Thank you.
I have been a taxpaying resident of District 15 for the past 33 years, a District 15 parent at Kimball Hill and Sandburg, and a district employee for almost 18 years. During all this time, I've always kept up with what is going on in my community and nationally so I can make informed decisions in all elections. And then I watch the people who are running our nation, city, and even school boards to see if they are fulfilling their campaign promises and if they will be getting my vote again. I want to believe that you really place high value on the support staff members of ESPA, as has been reiterated in 3 different letters. I'm just not sure I can. Our school secretaries and clericals greet parents and visitors daily and take care of their needs and questions along with their many job duties. ESC secretaries and clericals work closely with district instructional, business, technology, and HR administrators to keep all 20 plus ESC buildings working as one. Nurses care for children with special needs, allergies, and yes, all the daily coughs, colds, and illnesses. Sign language interpreters provide a valuable asset, signing for parents, students, and visitors. Classroom aides care for special needs students. Others instruct students and work in many classroom activities alongside teachers. We watch over students at lunch and recess, and sometimes we are that grown-up that encourages and guides and even just listens when a student needs someone to talk to. I think you will agree that each ESP member loves working with children. So back to the high regard you hold us in. I hope each of you holds our children in the same high regard that we do. The time for posturing and politics is over. 10 months is too long a time to keep going nowhere. We are asking that you treat us, who work side by side with teachers, just as fairly as they are treated. I hope you will show the community that you value our children and families by coming to an agreement quickly. Then I can believe that I am valued by you. I thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to address my comments to the board this evening, to members of ESPA here, and to the community at large, it all relates to the current contract negotiations, which have been discussed already. I'm a 26-year taxpayer. My kids have gone through the school system here at D15 and 211. And I'm very empathetic to the role that all members of staff in the schools play, from teachers to program assistants to bus drivers, etc. On a macro picture, I just want to make the following observations. I think we're really in a holding position or transition phase right now in October 2017 due to a number of factors, and I'd like to enumerate them. First of all, digesting the new funding bill for schools, which has only recently been passed, and we've still got to figure out some of the implications of that on a long-term picture. Secondly, healthcare reform. There's lots of that up in the air. How do we understand the long-term cost exposure for District 15 on something like that, which is, I think, every human being in this country would like to feel safe about healthcare, protection of health and access to reasonable healthcare. Thirdly, finalizing the District 15 strategic plan, which will help define all-round priorities, including people, facilities, curriculum, education needs such as dual language, etc., transportation, and the other elements that make up the operation of the school district within the community. Fourthly, I think we need to recognize taxpayers as a whole have expressed the sentiment that they're at their capacity to continue paying more taxes. Just look at the soda tax debacle down in Chicago. Taxpayers are also concerned about the impact of that on preserving their home values and their ability to remain in the communities. And finally, the unavoidable reality of the state of Illinois' financial position and its unfunded liabilities, which are enormous. And I don't have to repeat the statistics, it's pretty well known how bad it is. Palatine's not a wealthy community. I just want to quote a few metrics for people. 24% of Palatine children under the age of 12 are in poverty. For those that are 12 to 17, it's 15% of them. And adults who've left the high school system, 18 to 34 age category, 21% of them are in poverty. Okay. 37% of Palatine residents spend 30% or more of their income on housing. We're not a wealthy community. consider the impact on the delivery of education services to children who have needs from those backgrounds. It's enormous, okay? The economic reality is that the revenue pie is of a certain size, okay? And going back to those 5 factors that I mentioned above, we should be careful about making long-term decisions because that can lead to financial recklessness for the district, for the taxpayers, for the students, for everyone. A number of the negotiating points that I've seen publicized have posed questions that need to be answered. It's not a question of sweeping them under the table or just ignoring them or disrespecting them even. They are worthy of evaluation. And that's why the strategic plan must be put in place first. I know it's a board goal this year, and I think it's much more important for us to work on getting the framework of the strategic plan in place so we know where we're going, how we can get there, so that we can then make sound decisions going forward. I'd ask that we all consider these macro factors as we go through so that we can continue to live here as friends and neighbors. Thank you.
Calling anybody else?
Nope, you're the last one, unless anybody else would like to speak. If you'd like to speak, we've got until Jen's done talking to get a sheet in. All yours.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Thompson, President Shukai, members of the board for hearing me today. My name is Jennifer Elkins. I am the ESPA secretary and thus part of the negotiation team. I am happy to say that progress has been made today. A large reason why progress has been made today is because both parties were willing to meet. If parties never meet, bargaining can never happen. If bargaining is never made a priority, a contract could never get inked. Please meet with us before Wednesday. This has gone on for too long. Please meet with us. I would love nothing more than to clear our calendars, join together, and get this done. Then ESPA can truly feel like a valued cog in the wheel of educational excellence in District 15. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. Melissa, thanks for your comments. We agree with you that ESPA members are really valuable team members. I see them working hard every day in so many different jobs, and we really couldn't run the school system without ESPA members. And Julie and Rosella, you remind me when I walk through the buildings that I'm just in awe at some of the jobs that are being done by ESPA members. It's truly humbling to see everything that's done by ESPA members, and I can tell you that we do value ESPA members greatly. I'm sorry for this contentious time. It's not reflective of what we feel and appreciate about all of you. Miriam, we want full day kindergarten. It's one of our goals to look into it this year, and it sounds like you have some ability to help us, so we may contact you, so thank you for that contact. It's definitely everything you said we agree with, so thank you. Len, I know that the board agrees that the contract needs to be balanced, and they're certainly working on that as well to make sure all aspects of the contract represent everybody in the community. And Jennifer, thanks for your nice words. I think there was a lot of progress today. It seems optimistic, and I know the board is committed to getting together with you again as soon as possible. Thanks everyone for your comments.
Thank you. And Jen, one more thing. Again, like we talked about earlier today, not for lack of effort or desire to meet with you guys before Wednesday. We are a diverse group of people that are on the bargaining side of the board and the administration. We juggle a lot of different things. We all also have careers. I have work travel in particular. It makes it difficult to try to get dates last minute onto calendars, and not for lack of effort. We want to do it. We're constrained also by our mediator, as was mentioned today by him, and we will certainly look into that and hope we can find somebody that would be able to step into his place. And we're also constrained by the ability of our board attorney to be at our negotiation when he's involved with many other negotiations at the same time. So please, everybody know, in addition to Jen and your bargaining team, that we are working in good faith. Lack of dates in this time period is not at all representative of lack of effort. This time period has been very difficult. We were a little bit more free in the past, and it's just a little tough to get those dates on. But we are committed to making it work. We're committed to coming to a sound, positive agreement, and we'll work hard until we get there. Thanks.
So we're going to conclude the last part of our meeting back in the other room, and because of all of you doing your fabulous jobs, important jobs in the building, if you'd like to leave, feel free to go home and get some sleep. If you'd like to join us in the other room, you can do that too. But we're going to conclude the rest of the meeting in there.
From Marion Jordan Kelly Leptina. From Pleasant Hill Sherry Border. From Stuart R. Paddock Colleen Myers. From Thomas Jefferson Amy Etzner and Yvonne Metsonga. From Virginia Lake Mindy May and Rachel Stevens. From Willow Bend Stephanie Boucher. From Winston Campus Elementary Jenny Bennett and Mary Catherine Ritterbach. From Conyers Learning Academy, Sherry Augie and Carrie Steffler. From Carl Sandburg Junior High, Jen Kutzman. From Plum Grove Junior High, Jody Roos. From Walter R. Sunling, Gretchen Elser. And from Winston Campus Junior High, Barb Williams and Kristen Marvini.
We're going to get a quick photo of you. And then we do have a little gift for you from the Board of Education. It's a remembrance for all the things you do this year. Hold your pens in here and think of us when you are working on PTA stuff. Got that photo, Julie?
A glowing pen, that's what you get.
So come on over and get your. They're all in.
Don't get mixed up.
You too. Congrats. Good. I'm just going to turn that off first. Sorry.
Where you go?
Bless you.
The next item on the agenda is our report on our student assignment. I asked Dr. Barbini to come up and do that for us with his team. Oh, before that, I forgot, we were supposed to do the schools, yes. So we do have two reports from our schools, and I'll let Christy come up first and talk to us a little bit more about VL. Thank you for the reminder.
Here,
Wherever
you like. Here's good? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, thank you very much for having me here this evening from Virginia Lake School. I'm Christy Seifert, and very proud principal of Virginia Lake. Is Doug joining me now?
Doug's going to join you.
All right. We had a vicious game of rock, paper, scissors to see who would go first, and I won. So here we go. So again, thank you very much for having us this evening. I'm here tonight very proud to represent Virginia Lake School, but also very proud to be a member of the District 15 community. I began in District 15 approximately 18 years ago, starting out my career at Central Road Elementary School as a 5th and 6th grade teacher, moving on to Pleasant Hill, moving on to Virginia Lake from there as an assistant principal, over to Hunting Ridge as a proud principal of Hunting Ridge for a couple years, and now back again at Virginia Lake. And I have to tell you, the journey has been absolutely amazing and one that I could have never dreamed when I came in straight from college. So thank you for all the opportunities that you've provided to me as a learner and now as a leader in this great school district. Some basic information about our school at Virginia Lake. We are 750 students strong. That means we have approximately 30 sections or classrooms. Most of those are general education classrooms, serving approximately 25 students per section. We do have 6 self-contained bilingual classrooms, 2 at the kindergarten level, and 4 at the 1-2 multi-age classes. We have approximately 100 staff members, certified and non-certified staff that grace our hallways every day, and we're very proud to call all of them Dolphins. At the beginning and end of our day, we're greeted by 13 buses, a multitude of cars, many, many daycare vans, and many walkers from the neighborhood, and are very proud to welcome our students into our hallways. Just a little bit about what we've been working on. We talked a little bit at the beginning of the night this evening about building a community at Virginia Lake. We know that before we can do the hard work of helping our students be successful in their careers later in life, we have to have them want to come to school. And so we really work on how we can increase that sense of community at our school, that engagement, that excitement that brings our kids in each and every day. We do that with pep rallies, with school songs, with classroom mascots. All of our students have a classroom mascot in addition to our school mascot, the Dolphin. We have our school t-shirts that we wear very proudly on Mondays, our spirit days, and this year we've been working very hard on rolling out the 5 C's, which we consider to be critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity, and citizenship. And we're wrapping up that study just next week with a cumulative activity with our students. We've also worked a great deal on our community partnerships because we know we cannot do this alone. We work very closely with Palatine High School, our neighbors to the north. They help us by sending students over to be recess buddies, to be classroom readers, and this year we have a very unique relationship with them as they're working with our PTA and with our 6th grade students in creating our school yearbook. So our 6th grade students have been hired as photographers. The Palatine students are working hard to develop our pages and build our yearbook, and our PTA is the final editing piece that's coming in. So it's a great partnership that exists among us. We're also working very closely with our colleges. We work closely with Harper. We're a part of the Harper Ambassador Program. They bring nights to us like our STEAM nights that we were able to roll out for the first time last March. And our 5th graders visit Harper every year just to experience what a community college might look like. We want to encourage all of them to be part of the Harper Promise program that Harper has recently rolled out to our community. And finally, we have all of our 6th grade students visit a university. And we have had the pleasure for the last approximately 8 or 9 years to take our 6th graders to Northwestern to show them what a university campus looks like. So we're very proud of our teachers, of our support staff, of our students, and I'm very proud to be a part of the Virginia Lake community.
Thank you. Go ahead, Doug, you can start.
Good evening, Board President Shupai, Dr. Thompson, board members, community, and teaching staff. I'm Douglas Harder. I'm the principal at Sandburg Junior High School. I was very happy to join Sandburg as the principal last year after serving for 6 years as the assistant principal there and 2 years as the assistant principal in this building, and that's what I got hired in to do probably about 10 years ago. You're going to see some of the exciting things we do over at Sandburg School in the video here. We are 495 students strong, 75 staff members. Good news is that we have our 7th grade class this year is probably 30 higher than our 8th grade, so our numbers are going up, and I'm hoping that continues into next year. We've spent the last 8 to 10 years probably working on our systems. So our teachers, our students, our community have been working on PBIS systems to try to get supports and everything in place so everyone can be successful in our building. And I think we did a very nice job and have been recognized by state PBIS for doing that for years now. We circled around about 2 years ago with our green team to try to provide more. We really listened to our students and found out that there were a majority of our students that went, kind of, what about us? What are you doing for us other than teaching? So we circled back around and worked with them in our leadership to find more exciting things for them, ways to recognize, ways to promote, ways to get them to enjoy not just the instruction, but the other things that go along with being a 12, 13, 14-year-old student getting ready to go off to high school. And along with that, kind of a shoot-off point from that is that last year and this year, we've really been promoting and creating more opportunities for our leaders. And you'll see some of that in the video. These are our peer mentors. They work with our MILE program, kind of on a one-to-one thing. They applied last year and were accepted. I'm very proud of the students that were selected. It was a very easy selection process. They made it super easy. When I talk to them, and I ask them how it's going, because this is really the first year that we've done this in our building formally. And every last one of them, and it gets you right here to say it's their favorite class. They enjoy working with those kids, and they enjoy giving back. Last year, we applied for NJHS, so National Junior Honor Society. And our 8th grade class last year was the first class that graduated with honors with that. And this year, our 7th grade class actually applied, met the criteria, and are working on service hours and volunteer hours and participation hours to be part of that this year. There are monthly meetings with our NJHS group, and they are also researching careers in colleges and all that goes along with that. And they're going to be taking on leadership roles to promote that throughout the building in morning announcements. So it's not just them that are benefiting, but they're also promoting that college career success path for everybody in the building. We also have a leadership group, a leadership club that meets to continue that focus on what students want to do. As adults, we like to think we know what 12, 13, 14-year-old students want, but the best way to figure that out is to ask them. And they've really done a great job of telling us what that looks like and how we can make Sandburg School a great place for students to come and learn. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Matt, we'll get back on track. Thanks for reminding me I was off track. Do you want the board members to get to the PowerPoint presentation slides, or do you want to look at something else?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so if you want to get to the slides that begin with that one up there. I don't know what page it is in your electronic book.
all right. Good evening, Dr. Thompson, President Shupai, and members of the Board of Education. I'm really happy to be here this evening with two of my colleagues and team members, Assistant Superintendent Susan Gehring of Student Services and Dr. Cheryl Wolfel, our Executive Director of Second Language Programs. We are three representatives of a much larger team that really took a look at student needs and student enrollment to come up with the plan that's before you this evening. And so tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the fall housing enrollment trends. And then we're going to go into student assignment information, finishing up with certified staffing levels, and then certainly any questions you, as the Board of Education, would have for us. So, in September, I presented an enrollment update to the board. That was enrollment information as of September 1st of 2017. The information that is here this evening is based on information as of September 29th, the end of September, and this correlates with the information that's going to be sent to the Illinois State Board of Education to meet our annual fall housing reporting requirement. All public school districts in the state of Illinois are required by law to provide updated enrollment information to ISB. Everything that's up on this chart for the past 10 years is information that we have set as a district to ISB, and it's also publicly viewable on the Illinois State Board of Education's website. As I discussed in September, we do have a trend over the course of the last 4 to 5 years of enrollment decline of approximately 3%. This year, in terms of, and this would be the orange line, our pre-K through 8, we're down by approximately 85 students over where we were last school year during the 16-17 school year, and then our kindergarten through 8th grade students are down by approximately 101 students. Over where we were last year. So on average, we're between anywhere between 87 to about 100, 101 students in terms of a decrease over the course of the last 5 to 6 years. This presentation this evening is based on housing and serving the needs of those students in our district, of which, once again, actually, it's not once again because I haven't said it. In terms of our pre-K 8 enrollment, we're looking at 12,454 students. And then our K-8 students, we're looking at 11,000. I'm going to have to go back. 11,844. It's probably time to go to the optometrist and get a prescription. Either way, the fundamental assumption associated with general education staffing is based on the Board of Education class size targets. These are well-known and well-established in the district, and they are before you. Kindergarten, the target is 20. Our primary grades, grades 1 through 3, is 24. 4 through 6, so that would be our intermediate grades, is 26, and then our junior high school students, it's 28. Now, targets, are meant to be aimed at. We make every attempt to hit that target. Sometimes we're below that target, sometimes we're at the target, and sometimes we're over the target. The information that's going to be shared with you this evening would demonstrate that, for the most part, as a district, we are providing an education for our students, we're aligning to the target, and the majority of our students are either at or below the targets that are presented before you in terms of general education. Now, there is some variance that I'll get into in some of the later slides. This table demonstrates, on average, by grade level, where we fall in terms of the target. And I would just like to point out, with respect to that data, with the exception of kindergarten, our class size averages in terms of the targets are all below board target. Now, that's just an average. And one of the things that we've talked about, because this is a learning process for all of us, and we focus on continuous growth and improvement, and we focus on increasing ways that we can be transparent with the public, the community, and certainly with you as a board. And although we have traditionally provided the background information in terms of the slides to come, in terms of additional analyses, this was brought to our attention as something that we needed to consider changing this year and providing additional information to you about variance as it pertains to board target. And I really want to say that I appreciate the energy and effort and feedback that I've received from the school board. And with special mention of Board Member Border in terms of his guidance and suggestions in terms of how we can improve our reporting and make things more understandable and clear to our community, because averages only tell you a portion of the story, and there's a lot more story to tell. So Board Member Border, thank you so much for your insight in terms of helping us continuously improve our reporting in this area.
It's good to have a numbers guy on the board.
Agreed.
And thank you, Matt, for your, I met with our Dr. Barbini and Dr. Edgar, and the openness, and you know, the information was there. They want to be transparent. It was the openness and willingness to adapt and hopefully provide information that's more easily consumable. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So this table is the beginning of 5 slides of additional analyses. This is all in the board packet. It's also here this evening. And it basically gives a breakdown in terms of kindergarten, primary, so that's grades 1 through 3, intermediate, grades 4 through 6, and the number of sections at each of those 3 levels, as well as the percentage in terms of being below, on target, or above target. And what I'd like to point out here when we look at this particular slide, in terms of looking at our kindergarten, for example, approximately 50% of our kindergarten sections or classrooms are either at or below target. An additional 50%, all right, are over target. So that's where we see 50-50 there. When we start looking at our primary and our intermediate classrooms, we see a difference. So when we look at primary, once again, grades 1 through 3, we're looking at approximately 70% of our grades 1 through 3 classrooms being either at or below board target. That means 30% are over target. A similar trend exists with respect to our intermediate sections as well. So grades 4 through 6, 70% are either at or below target, and then 30% are over target. So do we have classes that are over target in District 15? Yes, but the majority of classes that we have are either at or below target, as the additional slides will demonstrate. This slide here is basically a bar graph representation of the previous slide, except it breaks things down by grade. So if you look on the far left, kindergarten, you're going to want to focus in on blue and green. Blue is below target, green is at target. Red, I thought, was appropriate. Dr. Edgar and Mr. Border and I, we thought that red would be appropriate here in terms of above target. That would demonstrate that we're approximately at 50%. Remember how I said we're about 50-50 in terms of kindergarten sections that are at or below target, and then 50% that are over. But when you go to the right and you start looking at grades 1, our multi-age 1-2 sections on over, you will see more blue and more green, than you would typically see other colors there, which demonstrates once again that the majority of our classes are either at or below board target in the district. But that's not enough in terms of just looking at where we're at. So this is where 3 additional analyses came in, to assist with this conversation. And so, I don't know if you've ever played the game of life, but this reminds me of the little people that you put in the cars, all right? I just can't get it out of my mind. But in terms of looking at the vertical axes there, that is our number of classrooms. The horizontal axis is the difference to board target. And when we look at this particular slide, and then we're going to repeat this for our primary and intermediate, all right, what we see is 2 lines, 2 vertical dash lines. The first vertical dash line near the middle, that represents board target. And green represents on target. Blue represents below, red represents above. And so as we look at this, there are 17 kindergarten sections that are below target, 3 that are at target, and then we have 19 sections of kindergarten that are over target. Now here's where that second dotted or dashed line that's vertical comes in by the 7. All right, we have, in terms of our sections that are over target, 9 sections that are 3 or more students over board target. So when community members are saying we have sections that are 3 kids over, or 10% variance, in this particular instance, 3 kids over the target of 20 represents a 15% variance over board target. We have 7 and then 1 and 1. So we have 9 sections that are 15% over target there. I want to point out that the 2 sections on the far right that are at 26 and 27, that was a result of very, very late enrollment, all right, leading up right to the start of the school year, and right after we had kids and families that had already committed to AM and PM childcare arrangements, etc. So what we did there is we added an additional paraprofessional to support those classrooms at that particular school. This leads us to, thank you very much for that.
Matt, are these kindergarten classes both the half day and the full day?
So this is just Gen Ed half day. The full day kindergarten classrooms are half grant funded, which allows us to go full day. And Dr. Wolfe will be discussing that. And all the information about full day bilingual kindergarten that has an emphasis on our English language learners whose primary language that's spoken at home is Spanish. That's all in the supporting materials provided for you and available for the public. So this is just Gen Ed, half day kindergarten. So when we take a look at the next slide deals with multiple grades that are primary. So they deal with our first grade sections, our 1-2 multi-age classes, second and third grade. And what I'd like to point out there is that in terms of the previous slide that showed that 70% of our primary grades are at or under below board target. We have many of the blue, the Game of Life pegs that are to the left of the solid black dotted line, which would demonstrate where board target is. And we have less that represent red or over board target. So it's about 30% of our sections that are over target at that particular grade band. When we look at the sections that are 3 or more students over target, so that would be 27 or more students, we're looking at, and that would be a variance of approximately 12.5% over target. We have 16 sections, so we take it from the dashed red line on over, so we have 16 sections there. I do want to point out that, in any instance where we're looking at classes that are over board target, the building principal does work with their staff, all right, to assign and allocate the existing paraprofessional ESPA resources to support those classrooms where we do see higher than board target class sizes. So that is a practice, that we have in place at those particular schools. The next slide is dealing with our 4 through 6, our intermediate classes. Once again, multiple grades, and we see the vast preponderance of data points being blue and green. So that would demonstrate the approximately 70% of our intermediate classes that are either at or in most instances well below board target. In terms of the number of sections that are 3 or more students over target, so that would be 29 students. All right, we're looking at 7 sections, and that is or represents an 11.5% variance. The outliers here that I want to point out are primarily in grade 4. We have 2 sections that are currently at 30 students. That is significantly over board target at one of our schools, happens to be Lake Louise. In partnering with building administration and then the teaching staff there, it was determined that it would be appropriate to support the students in those classrooms by adding an additional section. We then surveyed the parents at that grade level, and the parents at that grade level pretty much universally supported that, and then also indicated that they'd be willing to have their kids, go into, that new section. So, that's in the board packet as well. I didn't want to not include that because, we do have one elementary, one elementary school at one grade level where we have 30 or more students. That's Lake Louise, and we're rapidly looking at recruitment and selection so that we can, take those sections. I believe that there are 3 sections, and then move them to 4 and get that situated hopefully well before the Thanksgiving holiday. So, we really try to look at being creative and flexible with the use of our space. At our schools, and it's one of our board goals this year is to really look at capacity. And even though our enrollment is declining, all right, that is not a universal reduction in terms of student enrollment at every school at every grade level. We've been in a situation where over the last 3 to 4 years we've had to repurpose our computer labs at our elementary schools in order to accommodate additional classrooms at several schools. All right, so actually this year, instead of it being 2 computer labs, it was actually 3 that we had to repurpose in order to accommodate additional either gen ed or special ed, or even our valued ECDEC program that serves preschool students. So those schools were Marion Jordan, Hunting Ridge, and Winston Campus Elementary. But what I can tell you is that 14 out of 15 labs have now been repurposed and are actually classrooms, not small group instructional spaces. We're talking full-blown classrooms. And we're just thankful for mobile technology and the support that this board has given us in terms of, the one-to-one initiative and additional technologies to be able to help support that. But we're basically using the available space that we have, and we're running out of it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later into the conversation. So, those were the considerations on the Gen Ed side this year. But we did want to make sure that we were before you this evening also talking about considerations or potential look-fors for 2018, 19, and beyond. The impact of new housing developments is still, unknown. Bergman Point in particular, which is on Ela and Algonquin and feeds into the Thomas Jefferson attendance area, is something that we really need to take a close look at. Every time I drive by there, because I am a citizen and a community member, all right, every time I drive by, I see a lot of big wheels in that subdivision. And big wheels means that we're going to start having little kids coming in that'll eventually be big kids into our school system. So that's going to require, close monitoring, as with some of the other locations that we know about, but Bergman Point being the biggest. And so space for additional classrooms, and this is not just Gen Ed, it's, our English language learning program, it's our student services program, it's ECDEC. We're at a place where, if we have a need to increase sections in most of our buildings, we're going to have to start making some pretty difficult decisions. We're going to either have to continue moving programs from school to school, primarily our ECDEC programs and our special ed programs. And Assistant Superintendent Gehring is going to talk about some of the challenges and concerns associated with moving those programs with, quite frankly, our more fragile, needy kids. That'll come later, but one of the other things that we're going to have to possibly consider, because we believe in no surprises, is the proverbial art or music on a cart. All right, that means repurposing our fine arts classrooms, all right, at the elementary level in order to accommodate, for additional space if it's needed, because the more costly opportunities, so it's either moving programs, art or music on a cart, then we're starting to talk about mobile classrooms. We have mobile classrooms in the district, but we've made an effort over the course of the last several years to use them less and less and try to bring those classrooms into the schools more and more. It's also a part of the reason why 14 out of the 15 computer labs have been repurposed. All right, so that's something that we really, really need to think about. There are costs associated with mobiles. Then it's the question, what grade level, what classroom, goes, into that mobile. They don't have plumbing. They will have electric. They will have data. All right, but then there's a whole host of other things that go along with that in terms of school safety and security and things of that nature. So is it something school districts do? Yes. Is it an option that's viable? All right, oftentimes no. All right, but circumstances sometimes warrant the consideration of those. I'm not recommending that at that time. I'm just suggesting that that's something that we need to think about. And that closes my portion of general ed and student assignment, and now I transition over to Dr. Wolfel.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So if you look at the graph that's up there, we're continuing our trend. The blue line is our fall enrollment for our EL totals. And for the first time since 2010, we're over 3,000 students that we tested and qualified for the program. The little yellow line is our access exits. And traditionally what has happened with that, we start to go up, and then the state changes either the criteria or the test itself. So then everybody drops, and then we start to go up again, and then the state changed the criteria again. And I think literally this summer, I think Dr. Thompson and I got probably 3 letters in 1 week from ISB changing the cut scores. So what we thought we had in June, we were able by the end of July, when they changed again, we picked up another 100 children that we exited. So we anticipate our exits to go up again this year because they've promised that the test won't change again and the criteria won't change. So we're hoping that's true. So that's where our enrollment is at this point in time. And like Matt said, it is the fall housing enrollment that we use those numbers. Okay, so our considerations, we were very, very happy. If you remember last time we spoke, that when a school hits 20 or more enrolled children that qualify for the program, we're mandated a teacher that speaks that language. Last year, the entire year, we were mandated a Bulgarian-speaking teacher and could not find one. So this year, we were so fortunate, we do have a Bulgarian-speaking teacher that's certified. So we're very pleased to have found the Bulgarian teacher, and the year before, we were mandated Telugu, and we found Telugu. So we feel very blessed that we were able to find those languages. But with that coming up, we've got, in a couple more slides, I'll talk about our challenges with the languages that are coming up for us that we may struggle in getting certified teachers. For this year, our 18-19, and it is this year, and it continues to be a struggle, not just for District 15, but for the nation, the recruitment of certified bilingual, particularly Spanish-speaking teachers. We really struggle to find them. This year, we had to begin the year with a long-term sub in one of our classrooms, because we have to have teachers in front of our self-contained classrooms. So we are looking into a partnership with Northern and Harper to kind of start to grow our own, particularly looking at our children that are graduating with the Harper Promise program, and that we'll be able to maybe partner with a Northern and offer classes here, offer internships, offer student teaching, so that we can start to recruit actively teachers that we know we're going to need as our program expands. We're also looking into a partnership with District 214, particularly Rolling Meadows High School, and it's the Educator Prep Program, where we're able to target our second language students that hopefully we can get into teacher education programs, and we'll be able to offer internships into our district. They can come in, they can volunteer, they can help support, so that we kind of start grooming them to go into teacher education programs, so that they're there when we need to hire them. That continues to be a real challenge for us. These are our languages that we are looking at. With that enrollment that we saw at the first slide, we're very close to 20 in some of our schools right now for a Korean-speaking teacher, Tamil, which is one of the languages, Sri Lanka, and their IT people that are coming in. So that way, we're very close in some of our schools for the Tamil language. Hindi, of course. We're also picking up enrollment for our Spanish speakers in schools that currently do not have a bilingual program. And then same thing for Japanese. In schools that we don't have Japanese-speaking teachers, there are schools that are close to that 20 mark that are going to need a Japanese-speaking teacher, and as well as Polish is the other language. We have Japanese teachers. We have 4 Japanese teachers at Whiteley, and we have Polish-speaking teachers at Lincoln and at Willow Bend, which we're mandated to have. But our population keeps changing, and as more of our students come in and qualify, that's going to be a challenge for us as well. We are certainly on the path as the board goal of reviewing and looking and exploring dual language. We are partnering with a group from New Mexico that are coming in the district in November for a 2-day site visit to help us start to explore what sites possibly and what it could look like, and then come back in the early spring to help us be able to hopefully implement a program by the fall of 2018.
Okay, and in talking about students with special education needs and then the ECDEC preschool program, I wanted to clarify that ECDEC again stands for the Early Childhood Development Enrichment Center, and that is a general education program provided by a state grant for students who are at risk, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds who are not of kindergarten age. So I'm going to talk a little bit about special education, but also some of the considerations for ECDEC. In planning for this year, we recognized that in a couple of our special education self-contained classrooms, we had some declining enrollment, and we had students in 2 different programs that had very similar needs. So ultimately, we merged 2 programs together, freeing up classroom spaces at one of our schools that was really bursting at the seams. And so by merging two self-contained classrooms into existing programs, we simultaneously freed up 2 classroom spaces at another elementary school that was really needing to increase gen ed classroom sizes. The other thing that we're doing for this current year is watching our enrollment for preschoolers who are coming to us as 3-year-olds with autism. Public schools are responsible for special education services for children once they turn 3 years old. And the state works very well with public schools to try to help us prepare and anticipate those children coming to their 3rd birthday. So 6 months prior to turning 3, there's a system between the state of Illinois and our district letting us know of upcoming 3-year-olds. And we are watching those youngsters that we know already have medical diagnoses of autism that may very well need some intensive programming as they turn 3 this year. So that is one section that we may be looking to increase a class size at Conyers Learning Academy. We're watching, we're monitoring, and every year we watch and monitor this. This is just an unusual high spike in little ones who already have a medical diagnosis of autism. So that's something for us to keep our eye on this year.
Do they come in, then they do not wait for the beginning of a school year? They're coming in the middle whenever they
turn 3.
They turn 3, they come in at that point.
That's a good question, yes, and we're actually mandated, and there's some pretty strong consequences if we don't serve them by the age of 3. So leading 6 months prior, we begin a process of becoming familiar with them, meeting with parents, and doing an evaluation, a comprehensive evaluation prior to their 3rd birthday. So when a child turns 3, they can start right away with the services that they need in the school environment. So it is a bit of, kind of monitoring and tracking and watching. Then we always have our surprise children who move in or whose parents discover that, as they're developing, that they may have some disabilities that you didn't know about younger. Also, looking at this year, the ECDEC program through the State of Illinois grant has an opportunity and has applied for an expansion grant for the possibility of adding 1 classroom for children with the highest risk factors, and it's considered a full-day program. The federal government, a few years ago, in some of the Race to the Top funding, looked at expanding preschool experiences for the most at-risk students, and flowing through from the federal government to the state became the opportunity for districts to apply for a full-day classroom for the highest risk 4-year-olds in the year before kindergarten, trying to really jumpstart and close that developmental and opportunity gap before they hit our doors in kindergarten. So at this moment, we have a pending grant that ECDEC has written for us to see if we may be able to add 1 additional ECDEC classroom in one of our schools. So with Dr. Barbini and with facility use, we're watching to see which of our schools may have a spot that we can, in December, if we're awarded the grant, add 1 classroom that's full day for those most at-risk 4-year-olds, get kids off the waiting list. So we've been watching and capitalizing on opportunities as the state of Illinois provides that money to us. Additionally, for this year, 2 of the ECDEC classrooms, the existing classrooms, were moved from the west side of the district to the east, again to help further bring the classrooms closer to the neighborhoods in which the children live, to reduce busing transportation time, and also to incorporate those youngsters onto typical routes that were already existing so that we weren't using separate routes for children from all across the district. So that took place for this school year. And then looking ahead, and Dr. Barbini mentioned this and kind of alluded to it, we're always watching the location of our self-contained classrooms throughout the district, balancing with that particular school's need for general education classroom space. This is my 6th year with the district. In the time that I've been here, we've moved 5 classrooms already from locations in one place where the school was really bursting at the seams to the other. And I just wanted to point out that when we have to do things like that, or when we even contemplate it, relocating special education programs often has unintended consequences for our children with disabilities. It may look like by the number of children impacted that it's kind of a simple solution because there's a smaller quantity, but children who are in self-contained special education programs have disabilities and educational needs that are so intensive that they're not able to have those needs met in general education. some of those needs are really based upon their need for structure, predictability, being part of a school that's worked really, really hard to include everyone and have a sense of home and community. So when we start talking about moving some of those special education classrooms to make room for general ed sections in a building, we have to really look at the equitable access and experience for those kids with disabilities, and we weigh it very carefully, and varieties of leaders and administrators from different buildings and departments put our heads together to see if we can come with solutions other than moving our children with disabilities. So that is kind of already, in October, we're looking to 18-19 and where those building needs and facility needs are, and seeing how we can do that with the least impact for some of our most needy children.
And so what does this all mean in terms of an impact with respect to resources in our district? Well, if our students are the most valuable commodity that we serve in the district, then how we allocate resources is really one of the most important things that we do. And so through the team-based approach with Dr. Wolfel and Assistant Superintendent Gehring and myself and many, many, many others, and working together and holding ourselves individually but then also collectively responsible not only to Board of Education general ed class size targets, but then also requirements that we discussed and shared with you last May, when we talked about what goes into student assignment planning with respect to state and federal requirements in terms of class sizes for English language learners and special ed eligible students. Where we landed this year was actually 2.5 full-time teachers less than where we were last year. So if we take a look at this table, when this presentation was occurring at this time in 2016-17, it yielded 880 FTE, CTC positions. So we're talking about certified staff and students there. This year we're at 877.5. That's the 2.5 FTE difference. So we are meeting student needs, and I believe that we're doing so in a fiscally responsible manner. We really strive to maintain or even enhance the quality of services to kids, while trying to maintain or actually reduce the operating expenses to the district, just due to the times that we're in. Before we go into questions, I want to talk a little bit more about the team. And it's not just, me and Cheryl and Sue, that went into making this successful. Because, once again, how we allocate resources to meet the needs of our kids is the most important thing we do. And it can't be done by 1, 2, or 3 people. So I'm going to name some people by names, but then also some groups. I don't mean to omit anybody. That's not my intention. But I wanted to thank Sue and Cheryl for their advocacy and leadership in their fields of expertise. They're second to none. This district is very fortunate to have someone like Cheryl and have somebody like Sue. And, from somebody who's had the opportunity to be in different galaxies, all right, I can say that they're tops, the top of their game. So thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Sue. I also want to thank the principals for their, and when I say this word, I mean it, their tireless advocacy for their schools. They are an instrumental part of this process. It's not like a bunch of central office folks meet in an office and say, this is what you get. I mean, there is a dialogue and an interchange, and it starts right about this time every year, and it typically doesn't end until right up until the start of the school year, and sometimes even after that, as demonstrated this evening, in terms of the conversation with respect to Lake Louise and class sizes hitting 30 and an unanticipated increase in enrollment. I also want to thank Tom Bramley and the Department of Transportation, because when programs are moved, whether it's ACDAC, special ed, etc., all right, he's the person that we're relying on to make sure that kids are getting picked up and dropped off at the right schools every day, all right? And that is a job that's invaluable, especially when you consider that over 10,000 of our students are transported. So, we really appreciate his leadership and his work. And then Craig Phillips in terms of the environmental services staff. So when we add sections, or we repurpose computer labs, or if we move a program from one building to the next, it's the environmental services department that makes sure that things get moved and classrooms are ready to go, that equipment is ordered, furniture is there, etc. So Craig, and your crew, thank you very much. I want to thank Tom Edgar for his assistance with respect to the new analytics this year. I think it added value to the presentation. And I also think it demonstrates our core value that we want to continuously learn, grow, and improve. And then I want to thank Adam Palmer, because he does a lot of things behind the scenes with respect to allocating our specials teachers, art, music, and PE. And he's, very much an unsung individual who contributes at a high level to this process. So Adam, if you're here tonight, thank you. And I want to finish off with a very special thank you to Mrs. Lisa Nuss. She's our Executive Director of Personnel and Human Services. She is in charge ultimately of the recruitment and retention of our excellent staff in the district, whether they're ESPA staff or whether they are certified staff. And she does a tremendous job, at that. She's here early and she stays late, all right? She demonstrates effort, all right, and really delivers at a very, very high level. So not only does she really excel in terms of recruitment and selection, but she is certainly a partner in this process. All right, so she was very much a part of everything that went into the presentation and the materials, that were here. She makes sure that the right people are in the right places to effectuate the most positive change for kids. And so I forgot to mention Lisa the last time I did this. I wanted to make sure, I mentioned her now, especially because she's sitting behind me. All right, and so with that being said, thank you very much, team, for making this meaningful and helping us to appropriately allocate our finite resources to best serve our kids. So thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for the group?
I have a quick comment, which is to say thank you guys for not making this the same old process you always go through, and for being nimble to board goals that are just being developed and that were not in place maybe when you first started thinking through these plans, things like making sure that we're addressing learning gaps and providing full-day K opportunities for more students than we have been, looking into dual language programs, finding ways to recruit more bilingual resources in terms of our certified and non-certified staff. So by thinking through these goals for next year, it shows us that you appreciate the goals as much as we do and are really trying hard to make sure that we can find ways to meet these goals through all the planning that we're doing throughout the year. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question with regards to, it wasn't in your presentation, but it was in the packet, and it was showing the attendance by grade. And so I was looking at the numbers, and I noticed that the first grade enrollment, second grade enrollment for this year are down on average about 130 students, compared to what they are in third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. I'm wondering if you see this trend continuing, because they're, like I said, both those classes are around 1,240 students, whereas prior to that, we're around 1,370 students on average. So, I mean, if this trend continues for the next 6 years, that means we're going to see a decline of about another 800 students. Do you have any indication if this is a trend that's going to continue? Are they seeing that in other districts around here? Or I'm just kind of wondering there.
I think, Board Member Anarino, it's something that we have to very closely monitor. 2 or 3 years, that's certainly something we need to take a look at. That is indicative of a trend. But things could change next year. We don't know. I do believe, as a parent in this community, I think that, due to the fact that we don't necessarily have full-day gen ed kindergarten programming, that could potentially be an impactor or a factor in terms of people choosing not to live in the district. I'm just putting that out there. It's something that we need to think about. We heard about it tonight. It's something that's in terms of a board goal, something that we need to be aware of. But we're going to have to take a look at this, and it might demonstrate the need when we start taking a look at capacity and we start taking a look at student attendance areas. We're eventually going to have to really take a key look at enrollment trends, and we may have to strongly consider looking at a demographer, and having them assist us, knowing that they're going to give us a high, medium, and a low, but that's still much better than somebody like me, making guesstimates in terms of why I think that isn't the case. So it's something that we need to monitor. I think it ties in very well with the board goal that CFO Adamczyk and I are co-leading this year. And we're going to have to really take a look at it, because to your point, that is significantly impactful. If it's 800 kids, that's going to impact us and feel much differently than a 100 student deficit. 800 over time is something that we would have to take a look at.
And we do look at the cohorts each year to see if there are bubbles. And we have noticed that the first, second, and third graders are a little lower than the fourth grade. I think the fourth grade is the highest number this year. But we also have to remember that when we lose 100 kids, that could be as little as 5 kids per building. We have 20 buildings. And so, it's 100 kids seems like a lot, but when it's spread out across the entire district, it may not have the significance that we're looking at. But we will definitely look at that and make sure we see if there's any trends happening that they're already talking about 18, 19 for staffing, so they're kind of on top of it.
And I like the putting a name on the individual, a demographer. I was kind of wondering who does stuff like that. Now I know.
The demographer.
The demographer.
Yeah, it sounds kind of out there.
It does.
Ominous.
Quick question for you, Dr. Barbini. You had touched on Lake Louise and I guess the issues with their overcrowding right now. Procedurally, can you talk briefly how procedurally you go about saying, okay, we need to add another section, or what the process is that goes at the administrative level? Do we go right and talk to the parents and ask them what their preferences are, and how do we move forward with that procedurally?
All right, so what we typically do, and I'm just going to use the Lake Louise as an example. So we had unanticipated enrollment growth at that building, at that grade level, fourth grade, right before the start of the school year, and then immediately after, within the first week. And then we saw sections at 30, 30, and then 29. It wasn't looking like that, when we were sitting here last spring or even earlier into the summer. And so, when I talk about tireless advocacy, that was when Principal Sayawani, picked up the phone, and began calling and continued to call, my office. We had a conversation, and then I engaged several other central office staff members, who are here this evening, Dr. Edgar, Mr. Palmer, to name a few. What we did is we talked about it, and then we decided collectively that Principal Sayawani, really needed to engage her teaching staff in terms of what the issue or issues were. Once again, higher than board target class sizes. So, she engaged her teachers, and they really began with brainstorming. All right, we're over board target, and we're over, and we're into the 30s. What can we do to best support the students? And they came up with a series of options. They came up with 3. It was option 1 was we use our existing resources. So it's kind of like Teddy Roosevelt, do the best you can with what you have where you are. So that was one option that they developed. Option 2 was, requesting additional paraprofessional support to support those classrooms. Option 3 was an additional section. Now, due to the fact that it was after the start of the school year, and we typically don't split sections after the start of the school year, what we did was, especially after the team there said, teachers and building administrators, we really need to consider opening up an additional section. That was when we re-met with Principal Sayawani, Mr. Palmer, Dr. Edgar, and myself, and we came up with the survey because we needed to engage the parents at that point, and we needed to inform them, here's the situation, you are over board target, all right, here are the options that the teachers and the administration at the building developed to be able to meet it. Please rank order, the options, and then indicate if you would be willing to have your child go into a brand new section with a brand new teacher, if that's the preferred outcome associated with the survey. We had an over 60 to 70% response rate, which was really, really, really good, and the vast majority said open another section and we'd let our kids, go into that additional classroom. So that's the situation as it pertained to Lake Louise. typically when it's happening, in the spring or in the summer, that's conversations with the building principal, and myself, and then others. And then we take a look at a variety of different factors. We take a look at the number of student services, kids that are eligible and have IEPs. So special ed students. We take a look at our English language learning students, and that's when we ask questions about, all right, what's the student's growth rate? We look at MAP test results. We look at comparable schools, and we see and we make comparisons in terms of where they're at in terms of student growth. We look at PBIS data, all right, in terms of office discipline referrals and behavior. All right, and if we see that we're overboard target, but kids are growing in a manner that we would believe would be appropriate, coupled with the fact that we're not seeing, a lot of behavioral issues, all right, and we're not looking at, a high percentage or number of special ed or ELL students, we typically land on, we're going to do the best we can with what we have where we are, because kids are growing the way that they're growing. So we do look at a lot of different factors. Lake Louise, going back to that, we also looked at student achievement and PBIS data as well. As a part of our analysis. That was something that Principal Sayawani worked with their team with as well. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, absolutely, thank you. I have one additional question, I guess, for Dr. Wolfel on this one. With regard to ELL programs, if we have a number of students within the district, but not enough at one school to incorporate a self-contained section, is that something that would be considered, and will we place it at one school and then bus the other students in? So, for example, if we had 24 students that spoke certain language that we don't offer right now throughout the district, is it something that we would create a section at one school and offer that opportunity to those 24 students to come in to say, yes, we're going to offer German for right now at this section, and we're going to go ahead and bus them all in to this particular section?
Right. So we do have a bilingual overlay. So we have that in place. However, parents have the right to deny.
Sure.
And so that's where we're picking up numbers when they're coming into areas that we don't have a bilingual program, and they're either refusing services, which they still have to take the access test until they pass. So they're counted in our LEP numbers, our EL numbers. And so they can either deny, or they can say, we don't want native language instruction, but we want English only instruction. They're still in our numbers, but we can't move their school. So that's where the Spanish-speaking population is growing in some of the schools.
And we still provide them services. We just don't have to
Definitely.
have a teacher that's certified in their particular language.
Right.
And we have very capable, competent English as a second language teachers that know the skills to help these kids. And so we really haven't ever considered doing that. You see how long it took us to get a Bulgarian teacher. And so we didn't have 20 to
So
pick from.
true.
We had to take
Yeah.
the one.
And she's good. She's a good one.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, team.
Thanks.
Last item in my section is just a couple updates. At our October 2nd forum that we had, about 100 citizens from the community participate. It was suggested that we have regular updates, and I was just going to check and see if the board would like to have regular updates on the TIF from me.
I think it makes sense.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll do that then. I wanted to let you know that tomorrow morning, we're meeting, actually tomorrow afternoon, I'm meeting with Dan Cates and the developer of the project, North Schaumburg TIF. So he's an Inverness student, Inverness parent and resident. He's also a graduate of Fremd, but we'll be meeting with him and talking about some of the options. We are also in touch with the village manager in Schaumburg, Brian Townsend, and we will be scheduling a meeting with him, and also talking to some other people that could offer some insights to make that TIF as palatable for our district as possible, both school district-wide and residence-wise. So I'll bring you more updates at each of our next meetings. Also wanted to update you on our food allergy procedure study that we had. We've completed the compilation of all the procedures in the buildings. We'll be using that to benchmark, and then we'll be convening a committee of administrators and parents and other individuals that might be interested in participating to evaluate those practices and then recommend improvements in the future. So I think that that committee should be convened within the next 4 weeks, and we've already got some volunteers for that. So that's it for my section.
All right. Any questions or comments for Dr. Thompson?
Actually, I just want to make one quick comment on the October 2nd Town Hall. We did have a wonderful turnout. I just wanted to say thank you to the Community Engagement Committee for putting that together, and I hope that we have the same type of turnout and continued turnout with future ones as well, because it was great back and forth. It was really nice to see community involvement that way, so I hope for future ones that we have that same kind of turnout.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion for the reading and acceptance of minutes, please?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings of the Board of Education: September 13th, 2017, regular Board of Education meeting and executive session as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Iannarino,
Aye.
Border,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Han,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Motion carries. Board discussion and reports. Ed Red Council legislation, Mr. Iannarino.
We had a meeting last Friday with the Ed Red Group, a bunch of other district representatives. We had a couple speakers there. One of them was State Senator Dan McConkey. We spoke about Senate Bill 1947, and one of the things in it of particular interest is a committee, as we're talking about TIFs, a committee was put together to research TIFs and the impact that they have on districts and funding, and what kind of cost. Because right now when people set up TIFs, one of the big questions is, well, how much is this going to cost the districts and funding? And what's it cost to taxpayers in general and other taxing bodies that are not going to be getting the funds that are being paid into in property taxes? So hopefully this committee of 19 individuals will put together something of interest here that will help people make better decisions in the future when it comes to assigning TIFs and the impact that they have on the communities that, you know, don't receive the funds, but the funds are, you know, instead used for economic development. They're also part of the task force will be looking into possibly how you set up TIF districts and the requirements necessary for setting up TIF districts, because part of the problem that we're starting to see is that the TIF process can sometimes be abused, so to speak, especially when it comes to developing land that isn't necessarily blighted. Like, the whole intent of the TIFs is to encourage economic development and developers to come in and take an area that's blighted, that people don't want to develop in, and give them this incentive to actually do the development work and improve the economic situation of the area. But what's happening sometimes is these TIFs are being put together in areas that would have been developed anyways, regardless of whether or not a TIF was in the area. And it's kind of, you know, sometimes people say some questionable motives for doing that. But we'd like to try to keep everybody honest here, and hopefully this research will help everybody keep things honest and come up with some better solutions for Illinois, so that areas are not so put under stress of property taxes, because, you know, when you have a TIF, that money gets diverted someplace else, and so property taxes inherently are going to have to go up to pay for services that are not actually being funded by tax money, but instead are going to the TIFs. So that's kind of the situation there. We also talked a little bit about how the funding is going to break down for the different districts and with the evidence-based model. It's not 100% figured out yet, so they're still working on the details there. I think it'll be interesting to see how that washes out, because you're going to have these committees here that need to figure out how that's all going to come together in the formulas. I know the formulas were pretty well defined in the legislation, but there is still some wiggle room there, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. That's it.
Thank you. Questions? 1-5 Foundation, Mrs. Kane?
Yes, mark your calendars. November 4th is the 5th annual staff volleyball tournament. It's a very exciting event for anybody who has not attended. I encourage you to. It's very fun, especially to bring your students and have the students be able to see their teachers in a way that they're not used to seeing them. I know they always get a little freaked out when they see their teachers outside the classroom, but imagine them working with one another and being competitive and playing volleyball. It's a pretty fun experience. So it is November 4th. It starts at 9 a.m. The entry fee is just $1, and that $1 goes to support all sorts of exciting educational programs that the foundation can then fund at the buildings throughout our district. So there will be all kinds of prizes and winners, and buildings will receive will receive the proceeds of the money collected from really cool programming opportunities. So a really good way to support our schools specifically and our district in general, and all the staff for coming out and doing something that they're taking their own Saturday to do to help us raise funds in their buildings. So please come if you can.
Great. Finance Committee, Mr. Wong, Mr. Border.
We haven't had any additional meetings. Good conversation with the community group on the TIF, and that'll be the main thing we're keeping an eye on in the immediate near future.
Equity Committee, Mr. Khan.
I think since last meeting, we haven't had any additional kind of school visits, but I think this month we'll be doing a lot more of those for the remaining schools that we haven't touched yet or we haven't visited. I know I'm going to be working with Dr. Edgar as well to he's going to get some documents to me, and that will help us with the other part of it of just seeing the statistical breakdown of the achievement gap.
Perfect. Great, thanks. The Review of Illinois Association of School Boards 2017 Resolutions Committee report. Mr. Khan or Dr. Thompson?
Zubair, do you want to take that, or want me to do that?
I know that. Well, you can kind of explain how we're doing. I know I haven't sent around the resolutions in terms of. I haven't got a tally of what everybody's view is on the various resolutions, but I suspect we'll do that.
So Mr. Khan has volunteered in the past to represent the board at the resolutions hearing delegation assembly at the school board conference in November. And the committee was formed to analyze resolutions that were proposed by school districts. All 852 school districts in the district have an opportunity to propose resolutions. They're sent to the committee reviews them and then provides you with the resolution, the background information, and then whether they recommend you adopt it or not. And so what typically happens is each board member reads the resolutions and the background material, and then there's a tally sheet on, I think, the 4th page in your packet. And then if you just say you support it or oppose it, you send those to Zubair, he'll tally them up, and he'll get the will of the board, and then he'll go make those votes in November.
At the actual convention, so everyone can just email those to me one by one, and then I'll have all the tallies, and I'll vote accordingly.
All right, great. Superintendent's Communication Committee.
And we haven't met since the last board members meeting, so the last update I gave you was the most recent one.
All right, great. We have action items to address, starting with 17-1020. The personnel report. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the October 11, 2011 personnel report as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Border,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
and Areno.
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion for 17-1021.
I make a motion to approve the addition of a transportation coordinator position to the transportation department staffing as recommended.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? No discussion? All right, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
and Areno.
Aye.
Border.
Aye.
Motion carries. 17-1022. Motion for bid award for custodial cleaning supplies, please.
I make a motion to award the contract for the custodial cleaning supplies bid 18-001 to the following 5 vendors as recommended. Number 1, All American Poly in Piscataway, New Jersey. I really wanted to say that. For
You did well.
$6,390. Chemcraft in Chicago for $18,258. Supply Works in Lombard for $220,407.50. Unipack in Brooklyn, New York for $23,250, and Warehouse Direct in Des Plaines, Illinois for $30,339.22 for a total amount of $298,644.72.
Second?
I second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Khan,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
and Areno.
Aye.
Border,
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion for 17-1023, rock salt and triple melt.
Make a motion to award the contract for the rock salt and triple melt bid 18-003 as follows. The bid for pre-wetted rock salt to Conserve FS of Wakanda, Illinois in the amount of $23,595, and the bid for the triple melt to Valdez in Wheeling, Illinois in the amount of $14,705 for a total bid award of $38,300,000 as recommended.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
You know, this is, this really didn't need to be brought before the board because we have a limit of $25,000. Anything above $25,000 needs board approval, below it doesn't. But we wanted just to, you know, go through the process. In the event that one vendor had got both of the bid awards, then it would have been over the amount. So just a little piece of information.
What is, what's the benefit of pre-wetted rock salt? Weren't y'all curious?
No one. Can we get back to you on that one? I mean, or you need to know tonight?
Sure, no, I'm good
Okay,
with
all
not
right,
knowing
good.
tonight.
Pre-wetted rock salt.
Yeah, it kind of goes against the whole idea in my mind. If the rock salt is wet, when it's wet in my garage, it's a hard clump, so
You're reading carefully. I'm impressed.
it's funny. Motion for 17-1024, hot pan utensil dishwasher.
We didn't do a vote, a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
That's
jumping
right.
the gun.
We're still.
I think June's on top of it.
I'm so busy laughing about it. Roll call, please.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong, sorry,
Aye.
Enrino,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Khan.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to the
Pots and pans.
pots and pans.
I make a motion to award the contract for the pot, pan, utensil, dishwasher bid 18-007 to Douglas Equipment, Bluefield, West Virginia, for the total amount of $25,677.62 as recommended. Award recommendation was based on lowest possible bidder.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
Enrino,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Smolka.
Aye.
Motion carries. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent calendar? No? May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, please?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wong,
Aye.
Enrino,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right, there, we had some correspondence. We had 2 Freedom of Information requests to responses during the last period. On September 18th, 2017, a request was received from Gabriella Luricella, Smart Procure, Deerfield Beach, Florida. Response to this request was sent on September 21st. On October 2nd, 2017, a request was received from Kirk Allen, American Watchdogs, Inc., Paris, Illinois. The response to this request is pending. We did receive 2 checks from developers for impact fees in lieu of land contributions from the Village of Hoffman Estates. One was the amount of $28,121, and another one was an $8,545.37.
Great. Any questions? Anything further? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?